Hey guys, it's Jennifer. Today I'm so excited because we are going to make green velvet cake balls for St. Patrick's Day. And they are so perfect for St. Patrick's Day. They're perfect for any occasion. They're made with my favorite red velvet cake, and we're going to tint it green along with my favorite cream cheese frosting. They are so easy. They're really impressive. I'm going to show you a couple different ways to decorate them so they look really fancy. I think you guys are going to love them. For this cake recipe, you're going to need a mixture of cake flour, cocoa powder, and baking soda, some room temperature unsalted butter, sugar, 2 room temperature eggs, a little apple cider vinegar, a splash of vanilla, half a cup of vegetable oil, half a cup of buttermilk, and some green food coloring. The first thing I'm going to do is place my cake flour, cocoa powder, and baking soda through a sifter. And we're just going to sift these together. And then we're going to whisk it together. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my sugar, my vegetable oil, and my softened butter into the bowl of my stand mixer, fitted with a paddle attachment. Now the reason why we put half butter and half oil is because the oil in the recipe is going to give this cake really good moisture, but the oil doesn't have any flavor. So we use the butter to give us that really good buttery flavor that you find in all the homemade cake recipes, but it's going to give us that moist texture that oil gives us. So we're going to mix this on medium-low speed for 5 to 7 minutes until it's pale and light and fluffy. Now my butter, sugar, and oil mixture is really pale and thick. Now we're going to add our room temperature eggs one at a time, and we're going to beat well after each addition. Okay, now we're going to mix in half a teaspoon of vanilla, half a teaspoon of cider vinegar, and that's what's going to help activate the baking soda that's in our dry ingredients. Now we're going to add in our food coloring. So I've got some gel green food coloring. And the good thing about this is you can just add as much or as little as you want. Just going to start light and see how it goes. Now the only thing is I would err on the side of caution, because if you add too much food coloring, you could taste it in the cake and you don't want to be able to taste it. So we're going to let this mix for a couple minutes and see what it looks like. Alright, now that is plenty green enough for me. Now the last thing we have to do before we get our cake in the oven is we need to add our flour mixture and our buttermilk. So we're going to do this in 3 batches. We're going to start with flour and we're going to end with flour. We're going to add 1/3 of our flour. Mix this on medium until it's combined. Now 1/3 of our buttermilk. And you're going to need to scrape down the bowl just a couple times in between batches. Another batch of flour. Now our second batch of buttermilk. Now we're going to add our last batch of flour. Alright, last time. Now we're going to mix the batter on medium speed for just another 2 minutes to make sure everything is totally incorporated. Okay, now our batter is totally combined and smooth. Just going to remove this beater. And then using a rubber spatula, I'm just going to scrape down the bottom of the bowl, because I love stand mixers and I love mine and I use it almost every day and it is perfect, but it never gets the bottom of the bowl. Whether you're making a cake or cookie dough, always make sure that you scrape down your bowl using a rubber spatula before you put it in the oven, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to have a little flour pocket just waiting for you. It is nice and smooth and it's ready for the oven. So what I have here is a 9-inch cake pan, and what I did was I sprayed it with some cooking spray that has flour in it, and then I cut out a parchment circle the same size as the cake pan, placed it in there, added some more cooking spray on top of it, and now I'm just going to add my batter, pour that in there, very nice and smooth. Now we're just going to tap this firmly on the counter, and that's going to get rid of any air bubbles. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. We're going to place these in there and we're going to bake them until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. Okay, so now my cake has baked and cooled. It baked at 350 degrees for about 35 minutes. And as you can see, it's golden brown on the outside, but it's green on the interior. So what I'm going to do is cut off the exterior of the cake, and we're going to be left with nice, soft green cake pieces. So as you can see, I cut off the top of the cake, the bottom of the cake, so all you can see now is the inside, the green filling. And what I also did was I cut around the edges, and I made sure that there was none of that outer crust, because that part tends to be the hardest, and it makes it really difficult to mix into the cake balls, and then your cake balls won't form together, and it gets really difficult to mix. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to crumble up the cake, and I'm going to add some cream cheese frosting to it. Now my cake is all crumbled up. I just crumbled it with my fingers, and it's got a really consistent texture. It's nice and soft. Now it's time to add the frosting. Now I've got some cream cheese frosting here, and you can find this recipe on my website. We're just going to start with about half of it at a time. We don't want the cake balls to be extremely soft, but we do want them to be nice and moist. And you can use a spoon, but I'm going to go ahead and go in with some gloved hands. Mix that all together. I'm going to add just a little bit more. And it's going to form a sort of dough, and it's going to hold together really well. And that's why we cut off the edges of that cake, so that way we get a really nice, smooth cake ball. Okay, so now it's time to form our cake balls. So I've got my cake ball dough. And I've also got a baking sheet, and I lined this with the silicone baking mat. You can also use parchment paper, aluminum foil, whatever you have. Now, here's the part where you can really do whatever you want. So I'm going to make these into probably 1-inch size cake balls. Just going to use our clean hands, or you can use gloves. It helps to get your hands in there. Similar to that. Now it doesn't need to be perfect, and at this point, if you're seeing that the dough needs a little bit more frosting to help it stick together, then totally add some more frosting. It will not hurt the dough. And we are just going to form all of these into balls, and then we're going to dip them in chocolate. And you can always use a mini cookie scoop to help you portion out the dough. Now that my cake balls are all formed and ready to go, and don't worry, they're going to look much prettier after they're dipped in chocolate and decorated. Now I'm going to pop them in the fridge or the freezer for just 15 to 20 minutes while I melt my chocolate, just to give them a chance to set up a little bit and be a little bit firmer before we dip them. While our cake balls are chilling, I just wanted to show you guys some of the things that we're going to use to decorate. Now I've got some almond bark that I melted in the microwave in 30-second intervals, and I think that almond bark works really well for cake balls. Any type of candy melt, you could also use white chocolate, anything you'd like. What I do recommend is adding a little bit of shortening to your almond bark or white chocolate, whatever you use. That just helps give our cake ball a little bit of a thinner coating, and it helps coat the cake ball a little bit easier. So I just finished dipping and decorating most of my cake balls. I wanted to show you guys how to dip the last one so that you would know the proper technique. They are very colorful. I did lots of different decorations. I kind of went a little crazy, and I'm going to show you guys how to dip them. So I've got my almond bark here ready to go, and if it starts to get thick or solidify, just pop it back in the microwave for 20-25 seconds and it'll come right back to life. So I've got my really cold cake ball. Just going to dip it in there. We're going to totally enrobe it in chocolate, just like we did when we made truffles. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find the bottom of it, and we're just going to scoop the bottom along the bowl, and then we're just going to tap off that excess chocolate, and then we're just going to place it right onto our baking sheet. Now the thing about almond bark is that you want to decorate it quickly because it sets really fast. So I'm just going to decorate with some green and gold sprinkles. Now as you can see, these aren't perfectly decorated. They're not immaculate like I normally like my baking treats to be, but that's okay. They are delicious, they're really cute, and they're such a good treat to give to people for the holidays, like St. Patrick's Day or for Christmas. And even though they're a little time consuming, it makes a ton of them. So you can give them to friends, family members, co-workers. They're really a great gift to give, and they're actually pretty inexpensive to make when considering how inexpensive it is to buy these ingredients. You can get the full recipe along with ingredients and directions on my website, injenskitchen.com. Hope you guys enjoyed this recipe and have a great day.